Hi, welcome to this online training. 4 ways to determine intrinsic value in seconds. As you might know, my name is Nick Kraakman, originally from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, but I'm currently located in beautiful Thailand. I'm the founder of ValueSpreadsheet.com and the creator of the Value Investing Bootcamp video course, and I'm very excited to be here. So thanks for watching. In the coming 30 to 45 minutes, you will learn about 4 free tools to quickly help you determine the intrinsic value of a stock. And at the end of this training, I will invite you guys to the brand new Value Investing Society Facebook group, which is exclusive for members of my products. So let's start with why I decided to do this training. It's because determining the true value of a stock is a very important but also very confusing part of value investing, and I keep getting a lot of questions about it. And people mention the following challenges like, okay, so how do you calculate this mysterious intrinsic value? Which valuation model should I use, and how can I speed things up, because it takes a lot of time to find all the figures in the balance sheet and in the income statement and perform all the calculations manually. So how can I speed this process up? And one of the main questions I get about this topic is, why do the different valuation models give different values? The video course contains a video lesson, an ebook and a spreadsheet that helps with these calculations of intrinsic value, but apparently there is still a lot of confusion, which is understandable because it is not easy unless you use some automated calculators, which can speed things up significantly and will save you a lot of effort. I will now show you 4 of those tools, and best of all, they're all totally free to use, so that's great. So let's start with the first one. It's one that you've seen before. It's Guru Focus. I just wanted to start with this one for the people who haven't seen it before because it is just very useful. I'm just gonna use Apple in this case for this example. So I type in the ticker symbol Apple and just go to DCF calculator, and this is the calculator right here. So what we see is it pulls the earnings per share, the current trailing 12 months earnings per share for Apple. It says that in the next 10 years they expect it to grow 20%. I think this is like a default value, so we're gonna have to change that, because like right now you see the fair value, which is another word for intrinsic value, is estimated by this tool to be $337, and Apple's current share price is $264. So that means that Apple is currently 21% too cheap at the moment. So, however, that's based on a 20% growth rate. So how realistic is that? I don't think it's that realistic, because Apple is already one of the largest companies in the world. So if it would grow another 10 years at 20% per year, that would create something humongous. So I don't think that's going to happen. So let's see what the analysts think. So we go to finance.yahoo.com and search for Apple here as well. So Apple, and we go to the statistics page. No, sorry, that's not correct. We go to the analysis page, and there we see the analyst estimates. So if we look at the growth estimates, we see that the next 5 years they expect Apple to grow at 9.86% per year. So let's make that 9.5. Just let's make it 9 actually, just to be on the safe side, be a bit conservative. So we fill in 9, and we see then that the value changes to $163. So that is what they estimate based on this discounted cash flow model. This is the intrinsic value estimate for Apple, and as you can see, that's way lower than the current share price, which means that Apple is 61% too expensive at the moment, according to this model. And that means that you shouldn't buy it today. And of course, like you saw, the only thing I had to do here was fill in a different growth rate, and we're done. So it's really quick, really simple, and it's free. So I definitely recommend using this, this first tool. So what other tool can we use? Let's see, we have this website, jetta.com, and I really like it. It's actually the owners, the creators, the founders, they are from Thailand, where I am located at the moment, and yeah, it has a lot of great information, and it's based on value investing principles, so that's great. So we search for Apple again and see what pops up. So in this case, we're actually interested in this chart. So this is not a calculator, not an intrinsic value calculator like we just saw, but here they have already calculated the value for us and compared it to the price of the stock. So the blue line is Apple's share price, and the black dotted line, the black dashed line, that's the what they call the Jetta line. And in this case, that is representing the intrinsic value. So in this this last measurement point they have here, we see that the Apple share price was $224, and then that was 18% above the Jetta line. So that is 18% too expensive already at $224. So if we do the math, then we can, because they don't really show the value straight up, so if we say that, okay, at $224 it's 18% overvalued, so we can do a quick calculation on Google Calculator. So we do 224 times 1 minus 18, 1 minus 0.18 is, so their latest fair value estimate in this case is around $183 for Apple. So remember, we just saw that the discounted cash flow model of Guru Focus at about $163, and the Jetta line gives us $183 approximately. So that is not identical, and that is of course one of the challenges that I mentioned. One of the questions I get a lot is, why do these valuation models why don't they line up? Why don't they give us the same results? And that is of course because you saw when I changed this growth rate, if I change it back to 20%, you see what a gigantic change that makes to the intrinsic value that's being calculated. So it's very sensitive. It's very based on very much based on assumptions, because I can't be sure Apple's going to grow 9% for the next 10 years. I have no idea. That's just an assumption. And so the assumptions in all these models are slightly different. And there is not a perfect way to calculate the value of a stock. So the only way to get a decent idea of like a ballpark figure is to compare multiple valuation models, the results of multiple valuation models, and then come to some sort of a, yeah, like I say, a ballpark figure. So you have a rough feeling, like right now that we see that it's 163 or 183, that tells us that the value is probably not 50, it's closer to 150 or between 150 and 200. So, you know, it does give us a feeling for the value, but you'll never get an exact result. So that's the second one. Guru Focus the first, Jetta.com the second tool. The third tool is based on the Graham number. It's the Graham number is named, of course, after Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing. You see the formula here, the square root of 22.5 times the earnings per share times the book value per share. And you might wonder where this 22.5 comes from, but they explain it down here. And it's because Benjamin Graham believed that the price to earnings ratio should not be over 15, and the price to book ratio should ideally not be over 1.5. And if you multiply those two together, you get 22.5. So it's a very simple formula. It's very easy to do by hand, but I promise you automated tools. So there is actually one. It's on this website that is called dqydj.com, which is not a very simple name to remember, so I'll show it as a pop-up in the screen for you. So yeah, what do we have here? We have a calculator. It pulls in the stock. It requires the stock price, book value per share, and the earnings per share, and that's it. So just need to fill in these three fields. Then you can click calculate. They even have a button here to populate these fields automatically based on the last annual report. So it's not super recent, so you have to take that into account. But if we populate it for Apple, which was already filled in there, you see it changes, update, and we get 73.20. But that's based on Apple's latest annual report. So let's try to update these figures to the current situation. So we go back to the Yahoo Finance page for Apple, and this time we do go to the statistics page. And yeah, we're looking at the price first, so it's like 264. So let's fill that in. Here, 264. Book value per share. We can also find that here. Let me see in the balance sheet. Book value per share, most recent quarter, 20.36. So back to the calculator. 20.36. Earnings per share. They are also here. Diluted earnings per share. Here we go. 11.89. Okay, so now we have the most recent figures, so let's calculate, and we see not much changes. 73.80, that is what this calculator comes down to. So yeah, that's way lower than the other valuation models we just saw, probably because both of them were based on discounted cash flow, and this is a totally different approach, and so you get a totally different answer. And so which one is right, you may ask? Well, there's no right or wrong. Like I said, all models are based on different assumptions. This model is based on the assumption that the price to earnings ratio should never be higher than 15. But for Apple at the moment, if we look at Apple's summary, we see the current price earnings ratio is 22.2. So that is way higher than the model thinks is good. And the book value multiplier 1.5. So if we look at Apple's price to book at the moment, it's almost 13. So yeah, of course this model is not gonna say that this stock is cheap. What you have to wonder though is if price to book value or price earnings ratio are clear enough indicators for what a stock is worth. They're pretty simplistic measures, and of course this formula is pretty simplistic, but it is a good extra way to determine the value, and it's very quick, so that's good. You just need to fill in these few fields. Then finally, what I would like to show you is another free tool, and that's actually one that I created. It's a discounted cash flow model again, but this time in spreadsheet form. So let's fill in Apple here, see what happens. As you can see, it's very simple. All I do is fill in the ticker symbol, and it takes 5 seconds, and then it pulls in all the data. So you literally only have to fill in the ticker symbol. So it's even quicker than all the other things I just showed you, and it gives us a value of 191. So that is yeah, you know, like we have a wide range of values. We have 163 from gurufocus.com. We have what did we have? 183 on Jita. We had 73 something on the Graham value, and we have 191 in the spreadsheet. So if we take the average average, we get an average value of $152. So in this case you might wonder, is the average really what you want to do? Because these three are pretty close together, and that means that maybe you want to exclude this one and just say like, okay, it's probably, if we take the lower one of this range, it's around $160, $170, the intrinsic value. But like you see here, and like I said before, you won't get an exact answer. That's also why in the spreadsheet I didn't add the decimal values, because they give you a false sense of accuracy. That makes you think, oh, it's accurate to 2 decimals. You know, like, that's just not the way it works. So you get a broad idea of the value, and that is what all these tools give you. So don't put your full faith in just one of them. Use a few different methods. That's also why in the course I explained 3 different methods, and just compare a few models just to get a feel for approximately where the value is. And then that's why we use this margin of safety concept. So because we cannot be sure about the value, but we can only have an approximation of it, we have to buy at a price way below this value to be sure that we buy it cheap enough. So that's why we calculate a value, and I shouldn't say calculate, I should say estimate. We estimate the value, and then we apply a margin of safety. So in this case, $152. If that is the value, let's say we take that value and we say I only want to buy it if it's 40% below that. So we do. So that means you shouldn't buy Apple unless it goes to $91 or less. At the moment, again, Apple is trading at $264. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. It just goes to show how you go about this process. And yes, it is very rare to buy certain stocks, especially from big companies like Apple, at such a low price. So far below their intrinsic value, but it does happen. I have owned, for example, Apple while it was very, very cheap and trading way below its intrinsic value. So these things do happen. You just have to be ready for when it does happen. Yeah, so that is what I wanted to show you today. The 4 tools: the Guru Focus discounted cash flow model, Jitta's Jitta line, which gives you a sense of how the price is doing compared to its intrinsic value. Then we have the Graham number calculator, and we have my free discounted cash flow calculator. So that's it. I then just wanted to show you how you can get access to the Value Investing Society, the exclusive Facebook group for paying value spreadsheet members. So go there, go to valuespreadsheet.com/Facebook and click to join the group. And you have to fill in a few questions and write a little message in which you introduce yourself and share your #1 biggest challenge you have today with investing. That will help us get to know each other, and it will spark some discussions. Go to valuespreadsheet.com/Facebook, join the group, and I'll talk to you there. Thank you for watching.